Warning, the Warriors, we are all about truth, reality, facts, no matter how tough to hear. Our goal is education, intervention, prevention, critical analysis about human rights crimes and the landscape in America, including the escalating harms of social media to our kids and teens. And I'm so excited today. Nicki Reisberg joins us. She is the host of the widely popular and the most successful podcast, Scrolling to Death, a podcast for parents worried about social media. You can find Scrolling to Death everywhere you see podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. And she's also just so great on Instagram. We're going to have all of your information, Nicki, in the body of the video so everybody can follow along, join up, and get educated. So, Nicki is a mom and says too many children have been harmed by social media. We have gone too far. Let's stand together in the face of big tech and force a change. They're not going to protect our kids, so we must. Nicki, that is music to my ears. Welcome, Nicki Reisberg, to the Warriors.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm happy to be here.
I'm just so excited to have you. You're so hands-on as this little fly goes in front of me. But anyway, I want to start with, before we jump in, there are a lot of issues to talk about here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little something about Nicki that we don't know about you that you want to share, like a little nugget, like anything, like a hobby, where you grew up. I don't care, whatever you want.
Interesting. I think like I'm just a mom like all of you parents. I think that it's interesting that I was a social media manager on kind of the opposite side of this for a decade or so and saw the harm being done and the manipulation behind those algorithms firsthand. But again, I switched over to this work because of my kids, and I was so scared about how that was going to affect them. And then when I read the stories about kids actually dying because of something that happened on social media, I felt like we all need to know those stories so we can make safer decisions. So yeah, I think it just comes back to I'm just a parent like all of you trying to figure this out.
Nicki, you are not just a parent. Being a parent, though, is in my opinion, the hardest job in the world. I mean, my kids are all in their 30s and they just kind of missed that internet bubble of growing up with phones and things like that. They just missed it. I wouldn't know what to do today. Well, I tune into Scrolling to Death podcast for sure. I was going to ask you the backstory of Scrolling to Death, and you kind of gave it to us. You did work in social media marketing.
Yeah.
When you were doing that, because remember, we were all like naive about everything, right? Like,
Sure.
did you realize at the time harms were being done, or you didn't really realize it until you sort of became a mom and things kind of hit you, what was happening?
Yeah. And so, I realized as I started doing more advertising on social media, because it started out just you get things from who you follow, and it was very natural, organic, chronological. And then when the algorithm started to change and prioritize brands that are paying for it or actually choosing what people see based off of we don't know what all the factors that go into it. I don't even think they have a full handle on it, the tech companies. I just saw how manipulative it was from behind the scenes and how much I could target people with advertisements based off of information that they likely have no idea that is being captured by the platform. And so that felt really uncomfortable for me to be able to manipulate people in that way without their knowledge. And then layering on my children getting older. And I was sharing a lot about them, right? We all kind of do that when our kids are little. And then starting as they got older, starting to realize like this is their body and should be their choice to share them. And how are we all thinking about this? And so I just started doing some more research on sharing our kids online, what people call sharenting, and kind of the risks around that. And once I stopped sharing my kids online and really became uncomfortable sharing myself, I was like, I think I need to take a break from this and do some research on how social media is affecting kids and parents. And through that, I took a break for a few years from social media and felt a lot better about everything. And my relationships were better with my close friends, and really removing that algorithm and the addiction to the platforms from my life was so great. And so that kind of all led me towards this direction. But the biggest thing I do now is give a voice to parents who've had children harmed by the social media platforms in a safe space that's productive. It's not fear mongering. It's this happened to my child and maybe they're not here anymore, but here's how you can protect your kid now.
First of all, there's no fear mongering. I'm tired when people say that, Nikki. Not you. I'm just saying
Yeah,
this is
no, I know.
reality. This is like truth and facts. Like
Yeah.
we have all these parents, right? We have family members forever affected by all of this. So
Mhm.
why I'm in New York City? Why aren't people protesting in the middle of Times Square? Like,
Mm. Yeah.
these are our precious kids. Like you think everybody doesn't belong to any kind of political party, right? Bipartisan
No. Right.
parents, everybody can get on board, at least I thought, for the safety of kids. They're
Mhm.
just not doing it. And you touched upon a couple of things. I want you to go through, just explain for some of our warriors listening, algorithm,
Mm.
because we
Sure.
use that word a lot, yet people say to me a lot, I don't understand, Lynn, when you tell me about an algorithm. So
Mhm.
explain that to us.
Yeah, okay, and I'm not a technologist, but from what I have
But who
learned.
is?
Right.
So
So a few people, but not me. Uh, so it's an AI, so they use AI technology to capture all kinds of information on you based off of your activity online, but also from watching your face while you're watching your screen, from listening to your voice as you are using your phone. Even when you're not in some of these apps, they're also listening to what you're saying. And then they're taking all of that data, billions of data points, and serving you content with one goal to keep you on that feed as long as possible. And this is especially effective for children who don't have that innate gauge and that understanding that maybe I should put it down. Like they don't have the maturity to be able to put it down. So these algorithms are specifically effective on young people.
evil. Now, listen,
Yeah.
you also touched on something else about sharing your children's pictures online. I
Mm,
also find that because I say that all the time, do not share your child's
mm,
picture. And people will say to my face, "Oh, I don't do that." And then that night it'll pop up on my Instagram,
mhm.
a
Yeah.
little Susie in the bathtub. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
why are they doing this? And then you brought up a good point. Really, legally, when a child turns 18 or so,
Mhm,
what about these photos that a child cannot consent?
mhm.
So add a little more to that because I think this is a very important point, especially as we're going to wake up someday, Nikki. AI is here, right?
Mhm,
AGI. I don't know. We're going to wake up. It's going to be unleashed all over. We're going to see children's
mhm.
faces on who knows what or where. But go through that, the importance again of really thinking twice about posting pictures.
Yeah, and there are a variety of risks to doing this, especially with AI. So, historically, you can post pictures of your kids, right? And then someone that wants to use them for something bad can take them, especially in a bathing suit or in a bathtub and upload them to sites that you wouldn't ever want your child to be accessible on. So there's that. But now with the addition of AI technology, someone can take a photo of your child fully clothed, upload the photo, and click one button, and it takes off all of their clothes. And then now we're not far away from, if not already, they can make your child walk, talk, make them do things in a video and upload it to dark web type sites or pornography type sites. And so the risks are greater than ever regarding your child's likeness online, let alone if you're putting something up about them that could embarrass them later on, cause them to be cyberbullied. And so we just have to think about before we post our child. I think a good question is, how does this benefit our child? How does this benefit my kid and me sharing this? And if you can justify it, that's fine. But I think most of the time we're doing it for ourselves because we're proud. But how does that benefit the kid? And I think that's really important to think about.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I view it as, of course, people are proud of their kids. They want to show them off.
Hmm.
But I always say that, the phone, the devices, it's like opening your front door and welcoming the world in, just a bunch
Hmm.
of strangers. And people would never do that. They lock their
Yeah.
front doors. So
Hmm.
why are you doing this with children? Why do you think, Nikki, it's so hard um, to get parents, caregivers also to understand this concept?
We're so deep into it. We've for so many years, parents of today have been I mean, we've all been using social media since we were probably college age now, and so we have been sharing our adult lives. So this is the thing we're most proud of is our children, and it's such an opportunity to show what a good job we're doing and get some positive feedback,
Yeah.
right? And that can be tricky because are you portraying real life or are you portraying an idealized version of what you want people to see? And so that is fake, and that's not a good way to connect with others. So I think parents of today are just so deep in it. We're so used to it. And so I think it's really important for parents to look at their own choices and our own interaction with technology and maybe make some adjustments, especially as we're mirroring behavior. Our kids are going to watch us and copy us. And so we really have to be thinking about the choices we're making in addition to protecting our kids on their devices.
You're very kind, Nikki, because I used to be
Thank
very
you.
careful. No, I used to be very careful because I never want to judge like another parent. I don't, there's parental autonomy and it's your child.
Hmm.
But I'm at the point, Nikki, where like we got to get tough. I got to,
Hmm.
and just say this cannot be done anymore because
Hmm.
of this.
Hmm.
Explain to us, you pointed out. Let's talk about some facts and reality. Some
Yeah.
of these parents, what they've gone through, there are various issues from, you mentioned cyberbullying, we have sextortion, we have
Hmm.
all kinds of things and scams going on online.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Talk about that a little bit because we really need our warriors to understand what a critical issue this is right now.
Sure. So when it comes to giving our kids social media access, what we're finding are a number of risks. And it takes me about an hour to go through them all. There's probably 12 total buckets, right? And you mentioned a couple of them, sextortion. There's also fentanyl is so fake pills made with fentanyl. You'll hear about the fentanyl crisis, but most of these pills are being purchased on social media and sold to our children as quote prescription pills, but what they really are fake pills made with fentanyl. They have no prescription ingredient in there. And 2 milligrams, about 10 grains of salt worth, is a lethal dose to a human being. And so that is a huge issue. And kids are being normalized to pills and drugs through social media, particularly Snapchat. I've also been talking a lot about viral challenges, specifically dangerous challenges. I just interviewed 4 different parents who've all lost their children to the choking challenge. All 4 of them are located in the UK, but they're actually suing TikTok, and they filed a lawsuit here in the United States because our laws are a little bit more effective in getting through now to these companies and seeking justice. And so we have to be having conversations with our kids about dangerous challenges, about scammers and sextortionists, like you mentioned, about drugs, about eating disorder content, which will be fed to them in their algorithm. So there's just a number of conversations we need to be having with our kids before we give them access to social media and during that time. And so, something I recommend parents do is delay social media access, given where we're at right now. The harms are so great that once you give it, you're exposing your child to all these harms. It's actually going to be easier for you to protect them if you delay as long as possible. And I'm talking 16 plus when it comes to social media access.
I think you should talk 30 plus, but
I know. I know.
that's another
Sorry.
program. That's
Yeah.
another program. I do like though, really the adults have to really start thinking about leading by example. I'm going back
Hmm.
a little bit, because they will continually say to me,
Hmm.
we do focus groups here. They're not watching me. Or
Hmm.
I'm like,
Hmm.
they're watching everything. You don't think
100%.
so? They are absorbing. You have to lead by example. That includes no, devices in the bedrooms at night, but you have to show that too. Even if you lock them away, in your
Hmm.
bedroom or something, don't let the kids, they're seeing it. And how
Hmm.
can you, demand something of them if you're not doing it? I like to say, I like what you said. We like delay is the way. Wait
Hmm.
until eighth. I'll throw in, we do a lot of work with the DEA here in New York. One pill can kill,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, I do those little kind of hashtags to get people's attention because they
Hmm.
can't seem to absorb a lot of this. What are, in your opinion, the top 3 sites that kids and teens are going on?
Oh, that would be YouTube. I would say Snapchat and Instagram. TikTok is in there as well, hopefully soon to be unavailable to Americans. But
Well, that was my next question. I was going to say, do you have any insider info? Because I know you were just in Washington.
yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with TikTok?
So as of right now, the law is passed. As of right now, the app stores are following the law. So TikTok is not available for new downloads in the app store, which is what the law says. The law also said if you already have TikTok on your phone, it stays on there. But the thing is, over time, you won't get updates, and so it will over time become kind of defunct or not work correctly. And so that is what the law says. That is what is happening. There was an executive order from President Trump putting a delay on it, but there's arguments as to whether that the president can have any say. He can't overturn a law. And so from here, it will be interesting to see. There are lots of organizations offering to buy TikTok, but ByteDance, who the Chinese company who owns TikTok, has said they are not going to sell TikTok along with its algorithm. So we have yet to see, but if it does sell, it will need to be sold to a company that is not a foreign adversary, so it doesn't have incorporation in a foreign adversarial nation. And so there are lots of American-based companies who are hoping to buy it. And what I hope happens is that if they do, they make it safer, less
Thank you.
addictive.
Thank you. Because
Yeah.
I'm not convinced because I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Because, this whole thing was based on a national security threat,
Yeah, right.
not a threat to our children. It was the
Yeah,
national security threat that
that's
got
right.
everybody.
That's
So
right.
I was also hoping if somebody does buy it,
Mhm,
would incorporate, tell us what you want them to incorporate. If somebody should buy this in America,
mhm,
an
mhm,
American company, a person,
mhm.
whatever, what should they be putting into TikTok to keep everybody safe?
I mean, kids should not be served an algorithm. They should be served a chronological feed of people that they follow, that they've shown interest in. No manipulative, addictive content coming their way. No advertisements, because the advertisements are often inappropriate and not age appropriate. And so there should be a chronological feed. They should not be able to access it at nighttime. They should have very strict time limits. In China, the TikTok version in China for kids is 40 minutes a day. Why don't we do that? And so just the things to keep them signing off and getting off, because it's the addictive part and it's taking them away from all the healthier activities they need to be doing. And so, yeah, I hope with those changes, though, what's going to happen though is they'll make a lot less money if they implement changes like that onto our children. So we'll see.
We'll see. And,
Mhm.
people will always say to me, I don't know if they ask you this, Nikki, but why is this all happening? And my answer always is because there's lots of money to be made. It sounds
Mm.
like a very crass answer with, there's advertising and the kids are the potential, buyers and just scrolling through constantly and addictive and
Mhm.
keep them going. They'll become adults.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think about that?
I agree. The 5 top social media companies made about $11 billion off of minors in 1 year, and that was minors from 13 to 17, like known, minors, but there's also all these kids under 13 who have also signed up and lied about their age, said that they're older, typically over 18, and so that number is likely a lot higher. So there's a lot of money to be made, and these companies are not putting investment into safety and security. They're putting investment into things that's going to make them more money. And that is period. There's no way around it. You can see that in every example,
Yes.
every lawsuit. So that is definitely it.
Do you think this might, you can answer it or not answer it because it just popped into my head. Do you think with the new administration we'll see more strides in child safety? I mean, I'm hoping, but one never
Yeah,
knows.
I'm hopeful. I'm a little confused by all of the tech executives at the inauguration. And
I'm sorry. I got heart palpitations when I saw that.
I know.
I
I
was very
mean,
unhappy with that image.
when you have Mark Zuckerberg, for example, in Congress on January 31st of last year, apologizing to parents for the death of their children because of something that happened on his platform, and then you invite him to the presidential inauguration, a year later, there's something wrong there. And so I think we're prioritizing the wrong thing, and we should be lifting up parents who are standing up for our kids and putting them above the tech executives and the billions of dollars that they're making off of our children.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I was so upset when I saw that.
Yeah.
But then, Nikki, there was a part of me that said, oh, okay, there's a new sheriff in town.
Mhm.
Maybe this could potentially be a good thing. They'll kind of
Mhm.
play ball and start listening because
Mm.
they don't want to fail. Yet we've seen by their actions, they have continually put profit over human dignity, over
Mhm.
kids' safety. So I'm kind of not liking all this, what I'm seeing. And especially since members of Congress could not bring a spouse. They were allowed to actually bring spouses and I'll say girlfriends, okay?
Yeah, right,
Karen
right, right.
Bezos. And she even forgot to really wear a top.
We're a
And I was
top,
like,
yeah, I know.
I was like, wow. I'm like, something is wrong here.
Yeah, yep,
But
yep, yep, yeah.
I digress with all of that.
Mm.
You were in Washington last week. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us whatever you want to tell us about that initiative.
Sure. So I was with Wired Human, which is a youth coalition group. And so they brought together a bunch of middle schoolers, high schoolers,
Love
and
it.
college students. And we all talked about how we can help actually schools make things safer and ramp up education around these topics for the kids. And then I was there as sort of the representative of the parents. Like, don't forget the parents because we can teach the kids all of these things in school. But if we're not communicating and duplicating those messages to the parents and then not addressing that in our own homes, it's not going to go as far. And so we talked about a lot of that. We were able to meet briefly with Senators Blumenthal and Blackburn, and they talked about the Kids Online Safety Act and potentially reintroducing that soon into Congress. And so that would be great. That passed the Senate last year, 91-3, and then got held up in the House. So we're hopeful maybe we'll see some actual progress on kids online safety legislation this year.
I feel like this year we're going to see the Kids Online Safety Act. I
Yep.
actually thought in lame
We have
duck
to.
during that lame duck Congress session thing
Yeah.
period,
Yep.
right? New
Hmm.
administration and old administration. I
Yeah.
actually thought that, okay, it's going to happen. I
Hmm.
really did. And we were all disappointed. But you know what? I think is going to happen this year. There's
Yeah.
too much bipartisan support.
Hmm.
It's been going on. I think we're into what our fourth year just about
I
with Kids
think
Online Safety
so.
Act. And I also believe, Nikki, what do you think of this? If something like that will pass, I like to think things will snowball. We'll get some of these other pieces of
Hmm.
legislation easily on the coattails of it and
Hmm.
start seeing some action with all of this. Um, what do you think?
I think so, yes. But what will happen if it does pass is big tech funded organizations like NetChoice will sue our government and tie it up in legislation for a while, potentially years. And so that is the playbook of big tech is we support the Kids Online Safety Act, they say in Congress, but then they fund organizations that sue to try to overturn the laws that actually protect our children. So it's a little disappointing in how the process works and how these companies are able to hold up important laws, which is like just why we need parents to just step up and make safer choices in our own homes because we're not getting the backing that we deserve at this point.
No, actually, as we chip away at all of this legislation, this
Hmm.
is why our hashtag community creates change is so important. That we
Hmm.
need the parents, family members, caregivers on board to understand. I like what you said about I started about a year and a half ago. I decided parents need the education. Like the kids are really savvy and know what's going on. Yes, they do need education and all that, but it's
Hmm.
the parents that
Yeah.
really need to understand and not feel a lot of them said like, I don't want to ask questions or I'm embarrassed. I'm like the smartest people ask questions I know. Like,
Mm.
what are you embarrassed about? So I didn't grow up with social media. None of us did. You know, I hear
Hmm.
that one a lot. Well, I didn't grow up with this. I'm like, well, neither did I, but
Hmm.
this is the world we live in. We're not giving it back. We like online, like I'm able to talk to you right now, right?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
across the country. There's a lot of wonderful positive things, but we have to know the flip side of that. So
Hmm.
they really need to be educated about what's going on. And
Hmm.
frankly, it's hard because every day there are new emojis coming out that mean things that that
Hmm.
don't really look like the emoji. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
The
Yep.
dictionaries, you know, a peach means this, and a mother thought
I
it
know
means a peach.
the
So
drug
it is,
emojis.
yes. And I mean, it's
Hmm.
very hard. It's very overwhelming when people are really trying to pay the rent and mortgage and work and put food on the table. But I really feel like this is a part of the everyday routine. Like they
Hmm.
have to take steps to, if you're going
That's
to
right.
give the device and you bought that device and you most likely pay for the internet, I think it
Hmm.
comes with this responsibility
Hmm.
that you have to, knowing what you know, I know, we know about predators, always 10 steps ahead. And that's what scares me about AI. Learning through all of this, and I'll just say the last decade, what's going on. There's really nothing on the books yet for AI laws
Mhm. Yeah.
about holding anybody. Is again another free for all. Did we not learn anything over the last decade with just the
Mhm.
regular social media platforms? Um, I want to ask you, what do you think is the top, because there is so much with this whole topic, internet, online, big tech. What do you think parents right now, what do you want them to look at?
I want parents to think about social media as something that is optional for kids. Like they don't need to have access to it. So I want them to delay. The kids are going to be okay. There's no actual evidence to suggest that kids who are kept off of social media suffer any negative consequences. In fact, those kids often thrive and end up thanking
Yes.
their parents later. And so if we all delay in community, like you say, in community, they won't feel so left out. It'll be easier for everyone involved. And then you touched on AI. I think we all need to be thinking about AI. There
Yeah.
are really dangerous AI chatbot apps that are openly available to kids. Character AI, Replica. These are like manipulative AI girlfriends and boyfriends and dominatrix type things. Like there is some
From all.
dangerous stuff on there. And so we need to be really careful about checking our kids' phones and what they have access to, using all the parental controls that are in app but if and on phone, but if you are using an iPhone for your child, know that that's not going to be good enough because those phones were built for adults. They're not safe for kids. So we should all be thinking about getting our kids safe phones, and there are lots of companies that offer them. But luckily, these days we have options that are built for children, and so that needs to be a baseline choice. And then also the conversations like you talked about, coming from both ends. Let them teach you about what they're learning. You talk to them about it, be the safe space. Don't punish them if something bad comes across their feed. So, yeah, it's about delaying, about making safe choices on what device types and what apps they access, and then the conversations being the most important thing.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here. So
Sure.
I'm in the middle of New York City. A lot of the classrooms demand the children do their homework on Chromebooks, their devices.
Okay.
Kids who have lost their government Chromebook or it got stolen on the subway are
Hmm.
forced to use a phone to
Hmm.
do homework. So we're very much going school by school, trying to get the phone free school classroom. I know
Yep.
our governor has said she's going to do this. I, of course, in Albany, our state capital, brought up, well, that $13 million budget that you've allotted really will not cover a yonder pouch for every single child in New York State. It's just,
Hmm.
so what is the plan? And also, the other thing, a lot of parents are reporting to me the kids with different sports groups, cheerleading, soccer, whatever, they're
Hmm.
doing these like chats. So
Hmm.
they're forcing the kids to communicate by chats. And there have
Yeah.
been parents who told me, two mothers in particular, my child dropped out. I made my child drop out because I also wanted access to those chats. And they said, like, no adults could be on these chats.
Well,
And
yeah.
see, that's a
Okay.
big problem. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've encountered, I'm sure you've
Hmm.
heard about these things.
Yeah.
We've got to get that mindset. Kids cannot be on chats with adult coaches or teachers without a parent being able to check or be part of it, correct?
Yeah, but there's also important guidelines around we can't have a child and an adult chatting in a private manner either. Obviously, if it's their own child, that's fine, but with someone else's child, because that's where predation could come in. So, listen, I just did a survey of parents who've already given their kids social media. And I asked them, why did you give it in the first place? And most of them said because of FOMO, because all their kids, all their friends
Right.
were on there. But 14% of these parents said because for a school coursework or a club or sports related to the school. They were chatting through social media. And I was shocked by that. That is a no go. No child should be required to be on social media to communicate for a school event of any kind. Like that's just a no. And so
Wow.
I,
Because
I
New
was,
York and New Jersey, there's a lot of that in New York and New Jersey here. A lot
uh,
of these chats going on.
what they're trying to do is meet the kids where they're at, right? But there are free chatting apps that kids can access. WhatsApp, although not completely safe because it's end to end encrypted. So there's predators on there, but they don't have addictive feeds like these social media companies offer.
Right.
And so there's so many other options. They're just trying to meet the kids where they're at. And we need to prioritize their safety over just their convenience.
Mm. We got to work on that one here in New York State and New Jersey.
Yeah.
Um, let me ask you about, what do you know about Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act? I've been railing against that one for a while now. Just sunset it or make amendments or do something. Can you give us any kind of
Mhm.
insider, since you're so connected? What the heck?
Yeah.
That's holding up everything, that thing.
Yeah, so Section 230 basically protects the tech companies. It was passed in the late 90s. Doesn't make sense for us to be
Yeah.
following this law anymore. Companies are serving kids and people inappropriate and dangerous things through their algorithm, and so that algorithm shouldn't be protected by Section 230, and like it currently is in a lot of the court cases. So there is talk of sunsetting it. There's talk of reform. I don't have anything tangible on that yet, but I have heard a lot about it in conversations already this last month and this month, so this year. So we should see something hopefully get up on a federal level regarding 230 this year, and I will hopefully be pushing those conversations forward.
I'll be wearing a sandwich board and walking around
Me
Washington
too.
saying,
Let's make hats.
saying, I'm very serious. You think I'm joking? I'm
No,
not.
I want
I've
one.
had it. I've had it, Nikki, with this like nonsense with the kids and the big tech and like the
Yeah.
inauguration and the Mark
Mhm,
Zuckerberg, because my, and I'm digressing here, but like I kept going back to when he turned around and
mhm,
and
mhm,
looked at those parents with that, I can't even say half-hearted, that
mm.
whatever that was. Oh, I'm sorry. I, it made me sick. And
Yeah,
when I think about it, I get sick. And then I saw him at the inauguration, and I keep
I
trying
know.
to find there's some sort of positive there.
Mm.
But then I was like, oh, maybe it should be all the parents behind.
That is exactly the point I made, Lynn, and I've talked to parents that were in the room when Zuckerberg apologized to them, and
Horrible.
they did not accept it. It was hollow.
Beyond that. Okay,
Mhm.
what are you working on right now? Can you give us any
Mm.
is there a special
Yeah.
project or anything, or just you're
Yeah.
continuing yeah, what is it?
Yeah. So actually, this week I'm releasing a new website called techsafelearning.com. And basically what you mentioned about school issued devices, we're
Oh,
trying to we're trying to protect kids by removing phones from the classrooms, but then kids are getting access to some of the same harms on the school issued devices that they're given, which are iPads or Chromebooks. And so, through my experience finding a self harm video being promoted to my third grader on her school issued device, I became incensed and have created this website where parents can get more information on the dangers of school
mm,
issued devices, and then also access templates and guides in order to advocate at their schools to create safer experiences in the learning environments. And so that's
that's
called Tech Safe Learning, and it's going live in a couple of days.
that's exactly what we need, just to hand like little guidebooks or
Yep.
guidelines, make it, I always call it easy lifting. Just
Mm-hmm.
hand it to the overwhelmed parents.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to them. So this is perfect. So do you really think it'll be up this week?
It'll be up the 12th. It's already up actually, but it's it's hard
Okay.
launching on the 12th.
Okay, I'll be finding it.
TechSafeLearning.com.
Okay, now, Nikki, I want you to finish us up with leaving us with some final thoughts that you
Okay.
want parents out there to really
Mhm.
think about. No, you mentioned a lot of great things. We could talk for hours, and
Yeah.
hopefully you will come back again, because we need to keep refreshing the ideas and sharing
Mhm.
information. It's so important. What do you want them to know right now, February 2025? We have so many things going on.
Yeah.
We even have things like Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month going on
Mhm.
right now, where kids, so much of it comes through over the internet, on these
Mhm.
platforms. Yet there's a lot of good also on these platforms, I think. But
Mm.
what do you want parents to really know right now?
I think that parents need to remember that there is hope, right? We have more information and research and products and things than ever before. And so there's hope in protecting our kids if we educate ourselves. We hear a lot about decisions around our kids' devices and what they can access. But I really, like we talked about, want parents to think about our own engagement with technology. I just actually started using a healthier phone. It's called a Wise phone. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's just a basic phone.
What is that? A
It's a
wise,
healthy.
like WISE? I'm behind the
Yes,
a wise phone.
WISE. It's a safer phone, healthier phone for adults. It does not have social media or email or a web browser, but it has all the apps that I need. So when I'm sitting at my desk, I can access everything I want. But when I leave this room, I don't have social media and I don't have email. So I'm disconnected in a way, but still have all these other things that I need DoorDash, Uber, travel apps, banking, all the things that I need. And so I love that option. That's
Yeah.
I'm making that big swing and taking a making healthier choices around my tech use. But even if it's small things like turning off notifications, adjusting your phone so it's not so addictive, getting rid of some apps, like just make some changes that show your children that you care about safe tech use, and then they will follow your lead one day when they get their own tech.
I love that. I'm like, start with 15 minutes a day,
Mhm.
put down the device because
Yeah.
it truly is. We have all the studies, truly addictive for
Mhm.
all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even admit, I mean, my kids are grown and live in
Mhm.
all different states, but like I keep the phone next to the bed. I don't have any children here watching me just because I want to be connected if
Yeah.
something happens. But
Yeah.
I guess when I was a kid, we had a pay phone. I don't know how we
Mhm.
did it, but we,
Mhm. I
we
know.
stayed connected somehow, but I'm going back a bit.
Yeah.
You know what, Nikki? I want you to have some, I want you to develop devices. I just thought of that. That could be like a company for you. Are you
Yeah.
working on any of that?
I'm hoping that
Because you're a parent and you're on top of this, so it
I
should
know.
come from a parent
Yeah.
doing this kind
I
of thing.
hope that schools that we create safer devices that are built for schools, school safe devices. Because right now we're
Okay.
using iPads and Chromebooks. Those are built for
Yes.
adults. They're impossible to lock down. So if we can create from the ground up a device that we can use for learning, that they can't get access to TikTok and Discord and all these scary things, that's where my mind's at in the next couple of years. If somebody out there could create that, I don't know if it's going to be me, but I'm happy to identify where the problems are.
Yeah, you need to be president and CEO. We'll let the techie
Thank you.
people
Okay.
develop it, and then you'll be president and CEO,
Love
and
it.
I'll just keep talking or something.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicki Reisberg, I can't thank you enough. I really want to make sure we stay in touch and we talk more frequently, maybe on a monthly basis. I know you're incredibly busy. We have to carve out time. These are such urgent, critical issues, and
Mhm.
you handle it. You relay your information. It's so easy the way you speak and share, and I just love it. Scrolling to Death podcast. Again, everybody, the information, all of it will be in the body of the video. Instagram also. You know what, Nicki Reisberg, you are a warrior.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
Lynn.
joining me today. I hope to speak to you again soon.
Yes, of course.